This can spark some ideas for you. Maybe these are decks that you already have, and these are good cards that will slot into them, or maybe this will help you build the next deck that you're looking for. So first up, we've got Salarian. It's a card that is a little bit interesting. I don't think it's a very good card on its own. It has Sunburst, which means that for each color of mana that you pay into it, it gets a +1/+1 counter. It costs 7 mana, which is not great. However, its activated ability is that it taps and doubles the number of +1/+1 counters on it. I think this would be really good in decks that care about activated abilities and care about creatures in the graveyard and manipulating the kind of activated abilities that you get. There's cards that will take the activated abilities of things in your graveyard. Agatha's Soul Cauldron is one of the cards recently that was printed. It's pretty expensive. That allows you to exile a card from your graveyard and give another creature the activated abilities of the cards exiled with it. This would be, I think, a really good and interesting fit there, especially in green. There's a lot of creatures that tap for mana equal to the amount of equal to their power, and being able to double the amount of power that they get would be really good. If you start making infinite mana, it's not quite as interesting, but if you're able to at least get infinite untaps, then you can get infinite power and do other interesting things with this. Or maybe you need to remove counters. Doubling them could be interesting. It's just a thought. Next is Repay in Kind. I think this is interesting for Rakdos decks or mono black decks that care about reducing their life total. Black has a ton of cards that are all about paying life as a resource to do something, and being able to get everyone down to your level after you've been paying life to destroy creatures, draw cards, etc. is really powerful. And not everyone is great at killing players. Some people like keeping players around for table balance, whatever. And especially if your life total is low, but you have a decent board state, people might not want to throw resources at you and then be destroyed on the crackback by other people at the table. So you can mechanically kind of play possum. Your life total is low. You look like you could be taken out at any time, and so people maybe wait to destroy you. Then you can play Repay in Kind, get everyone else down to your same level, and then you can kill them on the crackback through direct damage. Maybe you're in Rakdos or other direct damage in black. Dwarven Blast Miner is a great card because land destruction is needed in Commander. There's lots of multicolor, and there's lots of really powerful lands because of the card pool that's available in Commander. People don't like mass land destruction, but they do understand the destruction of utility lands, and hopefully this won't paint a target on your back because it's a repeatable effect, but hopefully people will understand that, hey, you need to destroy some things. This being a dwarf and having a tap ability is interesting because you can play it in like Magda, Brazen Outlaw, those decks that care about dwarves. The cards keep getting printed that care about dwarves, so this might be a good fit in some of those decks. Dream Thrush, I think, is very good. Well, it's blue, it's a flyer, that's great. You don't see land destruction in blue, and this isn't destroying a land, but it's playing a similar role as land destruction, where you're denying a player the utility of their land. So maybe you need to get rid of Cabal Coffers or Urborg or something like that, or maybe someone has a Gaia's Cradle or something. You can tap Dream Thrush, and it will change that land into a basic land. So it'll lose those other abilities that it has, and mechanically it will just be a basic land until end of turn. So you can shut down some of those things, and you get a flyer to boot. There's lots of Azorius, white-blue decks that care about flyers, or just mono-blue flyers, what have you. Soldier of Fortune, I think, is another good card. I don't know what deck that you would put in it. Maybe you have some kind of red prison, like a mono red control deck, or maybe you've got a mercenaries deck. There's not really many of those. I don't know if this card's been errated to have, maybe he's like a human mercenary, or maybe he's just a mercenary. But there are a lot of tutors that will put cards on the top of people's decks. So if you've got a play group that cares about that has a lot of tutors that you want to shut down, or maybe you're able to see the top of your own deck, you can use Soldier of Fortune to shuffle someone's library. Just force them to shuffle. Anyways, hopefully this is a good slot. Maybe it's giving you ideas. There's also other cards that care about when people shuffle their libraries, taking damage or whatever, and maybe you can pair him with those. Sunken Field, I think, is a great enchantment in blue. There's lots of really good and interesting blue enchantments, and you don't think of blue as the enchantment-heavy color. Usually think of enchantments in like white and green as kind of your main things, and some of the other like really powerful ones, like damage doublers or triplers in red, or in black enchantments that really hose your opponents. But blue has some interesting ones. This is an enchantment that could catch some people off guard, maybe make them focus on playing cards a little bit differently. You might not hit the first spell that someone plays, but if they're kind of on the back foot or they forget enchanting lands, people often forget about enchantments on lands. Board states can get pretty cluttered, and this might help you in a pinch. So maybe you don't want to take up a ton of counter spells as actual slots in your deck. Having just one like this could be useful for you, and who knows, maybe you've got an enchantment theme, maybe you've got Azure the Enchanter deck where you could go fetch this out of your library pretty quickly. Just thoughts. Astral Steel is the next card. Combat tricks are interesting. I love them, but I don't always have them in decks. I like having them around, and I think they are good for the feelings of having a story about how a game played out. It can be really easy to just have decks that are full of permanents that you play, and you reduce the variance in your deck, and that's great. It does make your deck more powerful, but some of those stories of like they had a key piece of removal or a pump spell or something that really changed the game. Instants are forms of interaction, and granted, this is target creature. You don't have to target your own creature with this, and I don't know, maybe you have a Feather the Redeemed deck where you can play instants and get them back to your hand or whatever and target things. This having Storm is very good and kind of interesting. It gives you the stats of Stormcrow. It doesn't give the creature flying, but I just thought that was interesting. It's got a bird in the art, and then it has Storm. So being able to pump something up at instant speed with Storm is very good. You might be able to, maybe you're going to throw, you've got like a Boros deck that can fling things. So slot this in there, make a big creature, throw stuff at your opponents. Mistform Warchief is a creature that I think is a very interesting piece of ramp in blue. Blue is not a color that you think about for ramp, and you also have some cards that, like Volo, that care about you having a bunch of different creature types. Being able to reduce the cost of those creatures is very good. Maybe you have a deck that's running a lot of the same creature type. This basically just makes it so that if you've got like an illusions deck, then all of your illusions cost one less. There's a lot of the cards that reduce the overall cost of creature types are pretty expensive, like Urza's Incubator, etc. Other things, the the medallions that reduce the cost of all your spells that are blue or red, etc. by 1. Those are all pretty expensive, like 20 to 40, 60 bucks sometimes on those things. So this is a pretty cheap guy, and you'll be able to get a similar effect in the right deck for cheap, and you won't have to break your bank. Haze of Rage is another card with Storm. It's only a sorcery this time, but it has buyback, which is great. There's a lot of red decks that have a lot of tokens that want to overrun your opponents. Storm, you can also storm off pretty easily in red. Spellslinger is a thing, and this card is a great finisher where you've played a whole bunch of things in like a Zada Hedron Grinder deck that are all targeting things. Then at the end of that chain of spells, for just 2 mana, you pump up your entire team for like +8, +0, or whatever. It could be an excellent card. Or maybe you need to get in for chip damage. You pay 4 mana so that you can get the buyback on this, and then you've got Haze of Rage in your hand still. And then, if you have other cards that care about casting or copying instants or sorceries, then you've still got this in your hand, and you've got a repeatable effect, and you've always got something that you can cast and get value with. So, a card I haven't really seen anyone play with, but I think it could be really good in the right deck. Psychogenic Probe is our last card of the day. So, this is just 2 mana. Whenever a spell or ability causes a player to shuffle their library, Psychogenic Probe deals 2 damage to them. So, lots of people tutor in Commander, lots of people tutor for lands repeatedly, lots of people tutor for answers. They grab creatures straight out of their deck, etc. Tutoring is really popular in the format, and it will continue to be as people look to make their decks more consistent because people want to win games. This is a colorless card. It can fit in any deck, and regardless of your game plan, you can make it harder for people to win. This is a card that might not eat a lot of removal because it's basically just it's a tax effect on their shuffling, so yeah, this could do a ton of damage just sitting out. Maybe you've got a green player who is searching their library repeatedly for lands every turn. This could easily do 10 damage to them for 2 mana. It can rack up damage pretty quickly. So I'd recommend trying this card out. Maybe use it with Soldier of Fortune or some other thing where you're forcing people to shuffle their libraries or whatever. That's it for now. I have so many cards saved, and I need to make videos about them. So this was pretty rambly, one of the first ones, but I hope you liked it, and I will upload more and maybe have a better script next time.